It's my absolute delight to be speaking again to Katherine Macbean, the unstoppable Katherine Macbean, as I like to call you, Katherine, a founder of the People's Health Alliance and also more latterly the People's Food and Farming Alliance, both initiatives that are so close to my heart and so needed. It was interesting, Katherine, just a few days ago, my radio alarm goes off and it's the only time for about 90 seconds I hear any mainstream news, and I happen to catch that on NHS waiting lists there are now 7.5 million people in the UK. That's more than 10% of the population are on an NHS waiting list, and that's, you know, coming from the government. So clearly the need for People's Health Alliance, it's never been more needed. So, and the remarkable thing is, when I speak to you, you know, I forget how recently you launched, because it was only in April last year, 2022. So, I mean, you have moved mountains with your organization since then, you know, sort of 16 months or so since then. So should we start just by updating everybody on where you're at, how many countries, what's happening, maybe new areas that you're breaking into, anything you think is important for us to know?
Absolutely. Thank you, Pam. Yeah, no, so much has happened in what is really a relatively short space. And I think, you know, it shows that the people are ready. They want to build the new, they're looking to the future. They want to do things a new way. So it's been so well received. It's far exceeded our original expectations. We're in a number of countries now. I mean, New Zealand and Australia. New Zealand, I think I'm right in saying, I've got about 27 hubs now. I think Australia about 15. Spain, Portugal, South Africa, you know, all picking up, all moving on, and getting things moving. And we're just launching in the US. So to any US followers out here, we've got the US PHA USA Telegram group, and there's also a website now to go with that. And they're really looking for volunteers to help build that. Maybe you can have a chapter within your state or your area. But if it's something you'd like to get involved with, there's now a core team. So do reach out, do get involved. And I'll send you the links, Pam, to drop below so that people can access that quickly. But yeah, it's just been staggering on that front. Really exciting. And so yeah, and anybody out there who wants to invite people onto podcasts in the US or TV shows or radio shows, anything like that, we've got people ready. So just reach out and we'd be more than happy to connect. And also they're doing the same with the partners and affiliates. It's all about collaboration and coming together. So if there's another health organization out there or from any of these countries, we've now got core teams in every one of these countries. So do reach out and connect, because we're very much about working with others. And that's how we build the future, isn't it? We do it together. And then we also got our gala dinner, which is quite exciting. It's a fundraising gala dinner on the 29th of September. Everyone's welcome. It held in Leeds, and we're fundraising predominantly for a couple of projects. One being our mental health projects, which I'll explain a bit more about, and the other one being our youth hub projects, which we're, you know, really are very essential, and they will tie in with the education division, which we're looking to launch, if not later this year, then early next year. So that side of it's going great guns. And if you're interested in coming to the gala dinner, or there's anything you can do to support that, again, go to our website, and I'll get the links below. Do go to the website and have a look and see if there's anything there that would interest you. And then one of our big pushes we're doing at the moment is with one of our partners called My Medical Choice. It's absolutely fantastic what they're doing. So, for example, should you, goodness forbid, be in an accident, you're unconscious, you get taken to hospital, and you're concerned about any treatments or procedures that could be conducted whilst you may be unconscious, this is a way of it being attached to your medical record. You have a piece of jewelry. There's many different ways with which we can work, where it's an automatic system set up so that the people working within that healthcare environment can see your information that you want them to be able to see, and it shows your wishes, what you want, what you don't want, and an immediate alarm is sent to your emergency contact and so forth. So it's a real kind of protection for people. And based on the reports today that allegedly scientists in the UK are in a lab are working on a one of these to protect against the next virus coming along. the narrative is building that there may be a shift in what might be coming potentially. We just don't know yet. So in terms of just giving yourself that bit of extra confidence, I think more than anything else, that you or your family are protected, we're really supporting these partners. And there's so much more coming along, and it's just incredible. There's over 60 hub groups across the UK in all various forms, whether that's a physical hub, a virtual hub. Some are holding drop-ins at the local village hall or rec centre and so forth. There's lots and lots of different ways this is working, but I think it's safe to say there's never been a more important time to connect with others in your community. And whether you're looking at health, or you're looking at food and farming, looking at education or lawfulness, whatever it might be, really now is the time to connect with others and start moving ahead, putting in the safety nets, but also putting in the support networks.
It's so wonderful to listen to you, Katherine, because you're actually speaking the astrology without understanding the astrology. So it was a joy. It's literally speaking the astrology. And I'm sure everybody listening to Katherine is aware of how the People's Health Alliance works, but essentially you help people through a sort of central template to set up locally, and it's grassroots up. That's the Aquarian energy that we're moving into much more fully, with Pluto moving into Aquarius fully next year for another 20 years. So it's grassroots up. It's ordinary people getting together in a community, Aquarius, and organizing themselves, because I think you've even got a PHA in a bus that goes around, haven't you? There's one area that has a bus, which is just hilarious. But I love that. So it's very individualized to the area. Youth is also another area symbolically that's ruled by Aquarius as well. So anything to do with youth, to do with education, mental health is also linked to Aquarius, because if you think of the glyph of the two jaggedy lines, Aquarius is linked to the mind, higher mind. And in its best expression, it can be, you know, brilliant and galactic connection and that sort of thing, brilliant science. But at a lower level of expression, it's just a kind of complete mental overload and dysfunction. The jagged, it's like interference on the television set. You know, I just can't function in society. You know, I feel lost and disempowered, etc., etc. So your initiatives are directly addressing any difficulties with the astrology that are coming up, and that's why I always love talking to you, because you know it is so couched within the energies of the moment. So yes,
That's great to know.
Yeah, it really is, because you know the cosmic winds are helping you along. That's the great thing about it. So yes, one of the PHA hubs is in a bus, I understand.
There's a bus. There are others that do it in local community centres. I think some where there's practitioners who've already got a business premises, so they're really kindly sharing that and supporting it for a PHA hub. And again, I did a podcast with Amanda from PHA the other day, and what we want to get across is, for those that feel, oh my goodness, it's such a big thing to find a physical space, find that building, find somewhere to do that. Actually, the amount of healing you can do by just connecting with others face to face at your community level, those who may be struggling, those who are just becoming aware of some of the bigger picture stuff, those who maybe have found the last few years very isolating and feel very, very alone. Just by even doing a coffee morning once a week, you're starting a hub. You know, you could do like once a month kind of breakfasts at the village hall, which is something that a couple of groups have done, because then what you're going to be able to do is attract those in who maybe aren't as aware of some other stuff, and you're creating a space for them to learn more and feel more comfortable to ask questions that they might not feel so comfortable asking in other spaces. So we're really keen to let people know that a hub is what you create it, what you need it to be, and to start at that level. In fact, we actively encourage it, because you're still going to provide a healing space for people, irrelevant if you've got the right building and all the right equipment. Yes, that's wonderful, that's lovely, and we obviously all want to move in that direction, but just start with what you've got, where you can, as you can, and provide support, even if it's for one other person. You're doing something, you're making a difference, and that's what we want to encourage people to do. You know, it doesn't have to be all singing and dancing. You start where you are with what you've got, and that is often enough.
Katherine, it's beautiful what you say about human connection being so healing. because I think that was the kind of almost the boomerang effect of the lockdown, when many of us who live on our own are isolated, very little human connection. And then to come together with other human beings, didn't matter their age, their background, their state, none of that mattered. It was another human being to come together. And, one of the healthiest things you can do is hug, because you apparently
Yes.
swap bacteria when you hug, according to Dr. Zach Bush, and it builds your microbiome in a much sort of healthier way. So, for instance, I'm in a group at the moment, and we haven't got premises yet, but what we're doing are various courses. We're learning various modalities that are all about healing. And it's just joyful, and it's so exciting, and very quickly indeed we can use these healing methods and modalities to turn things around for people really quickly, including ourselves if we've got any issues, challenges. It's happening right now without any physical premises, and we're doing exactly that weekly. There's a coffee morning, and we're sharing these different modalities, and it's so exciting because there's a real feeling of ordinary people creating, helping others in the area, making a difference. There's so much warmth and love and joy in those groups. We don't grizzle, we don't moan about what's happened or what is. We just think, okay, what can we do to create? What can we do to help? And that's going to be the ethos that is going to create New Earth. I mean, this is a big part of New Earth, what you're involved with. So exciting.
It's so exciting. Yeah, it really is exciting. And I take on board what you said. I mean, I was obviously awake a long old time ago, and I was kind of ostracized from society to a degree. I was always on the periphery. She's that slightly crazy woman. She seems quite nice, but she's a little bit odd. So I had, if you like, a very, very lonely number of years because I couldn't ingratiate myself into society without I felt stepping on my integrity. And my integrity for me personally, that's just something that's very, very important to me. And it became quite tiring being in social situations, being aware of the bigger picture and not being able to talk about it, or having to do the standard small talk and things like that. And I think
me too, by the way, and I'm an astrologer.
Yes, you are obviously right on the periphery out there. And what I think has come over the last few years is an absolute acceptance and welcoming of people like you and I, who may have been seen slightly before as a slightly oddball, or not quite mainstream, if you like, not quite normal, if you can call it that. And I think what's happened is we've all broadened our minds. We've all looked beyond the parameters of society with which we were accustomed to, myself included. It's still been a huge eye-opener. I might have known a lot of the stuff going on, but there was a lot of eye-opening stuff. And it's reconnected me with people the last few years. And what we're doing is creating that opportunity at community level, face-to-face, like you say, hugging. Bar my kids, I never hugged anyone, and now I get the opportunity to hug people a lot more, and it's really healing, and it just feels good. And those connections, those human connections, are essential for moving forward. And we start at community, we start with one coffee, we start with one meeting. A lot of the groups are doing workshops, they're doing inviting in guest speakers, things like that. So you could be focusing around education. It's all going to lead to a better health for your community overall. But one of the things I've noticed most important is almost a side product, byproduct, if you like, of creating the hub groups, which are quite often focused on the physical health, is the development of the benefits towards our mental well-being, our emotional healing, because everyone, doesn't matter if you're aware or not, over the last few years, it's been quite the attack on an emotional level for so many of us. And it's something that PHA are now really looking at in earnest, and I'll go into a little bit more detail shortly, but to look at our emotional mental well-being is absolutely key, not just because we deserve that, and it's almost like now is the time for us with which to start this or continue this journey on that front. What we've got to consider are those that aren't aware of the bigger picture stuff, and the fact that we know that's coming. It's gonna happen. There's no two ways about it. But what we need to do is make sure we're okay, and we're setting up safety nets for them. So as they come through and they face what I like to call the kind of grief process, because I think it's very, very similar to a grieving process, what we need to do is make sure, again, we've got the safety nets in place to capture them and show them that they're welcome, show them that they're loved, show them that there's someone who wants to help them, show them there's a space for them to be, and explain obviously what's been taking place. And I think people probably don't realize just how essential that is, not only now, but more so how that's going to become. And I think, again, we've got a moral obligation to ensure we put as much in place as we can to help people through this process, and understand that I think everyone agrees that happening at community first and foremost is absolutely the best place to get started.
Yeah, and compassion. Compassion is going to be so needed, and compassion is going to be huge. It's interesting, just before we hopped on, I'm looking at the full supermoon in Pisces at the end of this month, and so much of that is about compassion, just about holding sacred space, just being there to listen and hug and understand. Many of us are going to be called on to step into that role. Doesn't matter, what your views are, what the past has been, what you think. It's just human to human connection, heart to heart, of I'm here for you, I understand you, let me hug you, let me help to heal you. And because that heart-to-heart connection is incredibly healing. I mean, lots of research has been done on this, Heart Math Institute in America, etc. But this is what we're going to rediscover, something so fundamental and so simple as compassion between people and heart-to-heart connection. Different ages, as I say, different, it doesn't matter. We're all humanity. So what you're doing is, you're such a leader, you're such a forerunner in this new Aquarian age, and it's thrilling to see. So do you want to talk more about the mental health aspect, also, Katherine, because I think there are different age groups with different issues coming up here, aren't there?
Yes, absolutely. We're trying to look at this in a kind of multi-pronged attack, if you like, for want of a better term, and we're coming up with working with what we've got in terms of our teams, and working very much with partners, and collaborating with them with what they're doing. Those that align and resonate with us, we're coming together, and some of it's still forming, so we're quite early on, but there's lots of people can get involved with now. So, for example, we've got something called FAB training, first assist being well. And what this fundamentally is kind of a first assist training. So if you're in your community and you see people around you starting to become more aware, starting to be maybe distressed, or needing to reach out, or someone to talk to, I mean, sometimes just being able to get it out is absolutely important. And you want to be that person to help hold that space, be able to have the confidence and ability to understand how to handle a situation like that for the best. And then obviously, if there's something a little bit more in depth going on, how to help signpost effectively to those that can go to the next level with people, to help with the emotional distress that they're feeling. So it's a course that can be run over a few days online, or you can have a face-to-face situation. We've got trainers that can do it online. We've got trainers across the country who can do it face-to-face. And what we ask people to do is go onto our website and have a little look. We're doing it with one of our partners, Authentic Discovery, and it really will give you the confidence and skill set to be able to manage some situations that will no doubt arise in your community moving forward, whereby people become aware and suddenly, boom, you know what it's like. And I think, quite honestly, the longer this goes on, the later on people become aware and wake up, the harder their awakening is going to be. We've had time. It's been a bit of a slower process. This is going to come thick and fast. And whilst I'm all about the positive, I've got a foot in reality as well. So what we have to consider is, if a bomb of information drops, if you like, you could then have a large number of people awakening at the same time. Now, if that happens, and we've all had our own journeys, and I don't think any of them have been easy for anyone, we all know how impactful that can be. So what we've got to do is I'm a plan for the worst and hope for the best kind of gal. So should it be as kind of brutal as it could be, you're going to have a big pressure put on society all at the same time. And we need to make sure we can still keep moving forward. We can still keep functioning. We can still at least get the basics done. So what we need to do realistically is probably get 10% of every people in every community trained up in the fab training. So at least then there's some safety nets. People are ready to go. If everyone kind of wakes up at the same time, we're not running out of people who can get to them and support them. So we encourage anyone who would like to get involved with this, who cares about this side of things, who has it within them to do it. And we're all different. It's no judgment. Everyone's got a role to play. But if you're one of the people that this resonates with and it sounds right to you, please don't go and look at the fab training, and do get involved, do get trained up. And you might want to become a trainer so you can go and train other people in how to do this and how to deliver this. So that's one side that we're working on, and we're just teaming up with a couple of groups who are almost next level to the fab training and what they can deliver and what they can offer. So do keep an eye out on our social media and on our website, because there'll be more information coming on that. And this takes things to the next level. Because let's face it, it's not just about the kind of great awakening, if you like. There are a number of issues that have been there for a long, long time that our own NHS haven't had the capabilities or the manpower or the resources. I don't know what the issue is, but it's not been being dealt with effectively. And certainly not the numbers. I mean, I dare anyone to look at the numbers. It's not pleasant in terms of young people and older people and men who have been struggling for some time to access effective services. So I think before it gets better, it will get a bit worse. It will get a bit tougher, but we need to make sure we're ready to deal with that. And that's what all of these safety nets we're putting into place will hopefully support. The other thing we're looking to do, and this ties in with the gala fundraiser, is to raise funds for a mental health hotline. You might think of it in the same way as the Samaritans, but this is being manned by people who've had fab training, and also it will be people who are aware of what's been going on over the last few years, so that if people do ring up and that's their issue, they will be speaking to people who will happily create the space for them and understand, can certainly resonate with what they're going through. So you won't be looked at as being a bit dotty. People will very much understand why you're contacting them. And we want to get this moving and run 50 lines 24/7 and then roll it out across other countries, because this isn't just a UK issue. It's going to be a global issue. But it's something that I think each and every one of us can support in some way or another, or get involved with. So we'd love to see people donate to the Power of the Pound campaign to help us move that forward. We're trying other streams to raise the funds for it. But I think it is going to be really essential, however much we need that community first and foremost. If we are going to be dealing with quite substantial numbers, we are going to need some backup mechanisms. So we're looking at the mental health hotline, which we've costed out. We've got a communications company. They're going to run all the telecoms at cost for us. They're not making a profit, not one bit of it. We're keeping everything down. You know, people are just incredible. Honestly, they're just incredible. We're keeping everything down to the lowest possible cost we can. Everyone who knows us knows we're very transparent about these sorts of things. But if you are able to share a few pounds a month, or you'd like to donate to that cause, please go and have a look at the website and kindly do so. But equally, if you're somebody who's worked in emotional health or mental health previously and you've got a little bit of time you'd like to donate, we'd love to hear from you and get your thoughts on these projects or get you involved. And equally, if you're somebody out there, maybe you're a community group or a regional group, or even a national group who do focus on sort of mental emotional health, and you'd like to talk to us or get involved with collaborating, or us giving you a platform to share what you're doing at your community level, again, get in touch. We don't, as always, we don't have all the answers, but we do believe if we all come together, we'll be able to find the answers. And I think there's so much more that can be done. We might not have it right 100% of the time, but I think this is the next big thing, is going to be focusing on the mental, emotional health of the country, the world, and what role we can play in helping to, you know, redress the balance, to make sure there's solutions, and we don't let anyone fall to their knees. We catch them before they get to that stage. So I would just welcome everyone to have a think about that and get involved.
Yeah, it's beautifully said, Catherine. And I think the need is greater than it's ever been, for a couple of reasons. I mean, if you've got a broken leg, you go to A&E in the UK or Casualty, wherever you are, and you get your broken leg, at least plastered up. If you've got a mental health problem, the resources are so much thinner because they have been cut substantially, particularly through the pandemic, because it was all about the pandemic. It was all about the virus. That was top priority. So things like mental health, which seem more ethereal, harder to deal with, and also much more long-term potentially than just plastering a broken leg, they have really fallen through the net, I think, quite dramatically. And because of all the other reasons you're highlighting, the numbers of people that I think are going to need some mental support, I think the problem is probably bigger than it's ever been, because even during the war days, when there were massive stresses, bombs dropping on people, they had community.
Yes.
They had community. They'd come together as community. They'd share their chicken eggs if they kept chickens, or their butter, or they'd make bread for each other, make soup for each other. There was a tremendous sense of community, and in a way, that's partly what you're recreating with the People's
Yeah.
Health Alliance, bringing people back together, because we've been in such a state of material territorialism. The society has encouraged us to say, I work very hard, this is mine, this is my fence, it's not yours, this is all mine. And that is changing rapidly because of the astrology, because of the Aquarian energy, but also because of the social demands, the social needs,
Yeah.
that people actively want to help others. Whereas in the
Yeah.
past, it was, no, this is mine, and that's not yours. So but people actively want to share, and we're shifting from a consciousness that's about investing for profit to one that's about investing for people. And I know many people who are willingly giving whatever money they have to causes like this. And if you can put your the Power of the Pound link as well
Yeah.
beneath this, because you're just asking, aren't you, for £1 a month from people, which is
Yeah.
nothing, today's society, nothing. But if enough of us do that, it makes such a big difference. Again, that's Aquarian energy, collaboration, community. So it really is wonderful. And you're also addressing youth in a bigger way, I think, Catherine, as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'll say now, if there's any people out there who are experienced in dealing within the youth arena, whether that be an emotional well-being, whether that be physical well-being, again, we'd love you to reach out. We'd love to, connect with you. We would, with the gala dinner, our two biggest projects are the mental health and the youth hubs. So we've got the blueprint on the website on how to create a blueprint for how to create a hub for youth. Through the pandemic, we lost a lot of sports groups, we lost a lot of youth clubs, a lot of things were shut down, and they just haven't reopened necessarily. And there's this huge void. And what I've noticed with adults, and that could be just my experience, but what I've noticed with adults, within the last 3 to 4 months, there's a lot more putting down the phone, putting down the screen, and wanting to go out there and connect with people and do that. We're not seeing quite the same shift with our young people yet, and we are now connecting more so with young people through PHA, but there's a lot of work to do. But again, if this is something that you're passionate about, if this resonates, get in contact, go and have a look at the Hub Blueprint, go and see what you can do. It might, again, be something very simple. You could hold a cinema evening once a week, or something whereby young people come together, encourage them to say, leave your phones in your pockets, guys, or in your bags. Let's talk. We've got the education side of things that we're all really excited about. I mean, we're all passionate about it. We're all really passionate about it, that we'd ideally like to get moving by the end of the year, if not very early next year. Our young people are struggling. The mental health, I think, in our young people overall, if you were to do it as a percentage, I don't think we've ever seen it quite so rough for them. And again, like you say, the services are just not there to fill the need. And we could talk on Wax Lyrical all day long as to why there's so many issues emotionally for our young people, but I think most people will understand there's a variety of reasons, and it's just accumulating in a boiling pot at the moment. And what we don't want to do is see that get any worse. So again, we are engaging with people, but we do encourage community groups, go and look at the blueprint for the youth hub. Is this something you can add on? Or is this something where they actually haven't got a health hub? You've got a lot of young people and you're seeing them and feeling them that they're not coping particularly well at the moment. Can you do something about that? Can you step into that? We do obviously take responsibility a lot greater with our young people in terms of making sure we tick a lot more boxes, because we do have a responsibility to do that. What hubs do at community level, you're a bunch of adults. Ultimately, it's down to you. You've been dictated to for long enough. It's not for us to dictate to you what you do. As long as you can align with the principles, you fill your boots. With the youth, we just ask people to read through the youth hub, make sure youth hub blueprint, make sure you're ticking the boxes on certain things, because we do have a responsibility as the minors to make sure we are abiding by certain rules, and quite rightly so. We've selected all the stuff that makes sense, so it's quite rightly so. But the young people are struggling, and again, we've got a responsibility. If you've got a stand in the park gang, if you've got even a couple of young people in your local area who are kind of aware of some of the bigger picture stuff, you can always invite them to talk or explain how things are from their point of view. Help us oldies understand better where you're at, how we can help you, what we can do to connect with you, how we can connect with other young people, how we can encourage them to come away from their screens and find out their purpose in life, find out their role, find out who they are at a very basic level, who they are. Because so many are defined by society's rules and the social media side of it, you know, the celebrity side of things. They haven't been given the opportunity to even just discover themselves and who they are. And I think it's essential that we create space and time for that to happen. So whatever it looks like, our young people are struggling. There are going to be a lot more people coming who will be struggling over the coming months and, you know, maybe another year or two, in terms of having their awakening and becoming aware of the bigger picture. And I think on an emotional level, it will ricochet across all of us if we don't do something to get those safety nets in place now.
Yeah, I mean, really well said, because you're talking about a whole generation here. And it's so interesting. It's the generation that's grown up with technology. And that can be a great connector, as we're doing right now. And isn't it wonderful? We can connect on Zoom and via social media, but it can also be a great divider, because the connection is through the technology rather than connecting with, you know, hugging a human being. And it's that's as we've said, that's such a vital component in the healing. Just being held by someone. You know, if someone's in a lot of distress and in tears, they want a hug. They want a hug. And the GP probably doesn't have the time or the resources to do that, because he's got kind of 10-minute slots, and you can't kind of dive into your mental state, because there just isn't the resource there to do it. So you need someone with compassion, with a big heart, that will just hold you and understand, especially.
And that can sometimes, just that holding, I've had it in the past where I've stored things up, and then that person's just coming up, and you can feel empathy and compassion. You can feel it. You know when it's genuine, you know when it's authentic. And just one person, she put her arms around me, and it was like this was unleashed, and it all came out at exactly the right time. And I knew that she could manage that. She could hold that space and allow that to happen. And so and that just made such a difference to me. It literally completely cleared a load of things out that were blocking me, and put me in such a better space as a result of that. And all she did was hug me and just listen. And are you someone who can do that? Can you just hold someone and let them know they're loved and they're cared for and they're not alone, and then just sit back with a cuppa and let them talk, let them ask the questions, let them get it out? That you don't necessarily understand just how much of an impact, I think, when you're in that position, it can have on another person. And then not only have you helped that person, you've helped yourself as well. You know, it's always the way, I think.
Because you feel so much better. Not that you have an agenda in this, but you feel so much better if you've helped someone. You know, there's just a kind of boomerang effect in that way. But the person who is being helped feels, I think, more worthwhile. They feel that they've been heard, they've been listened to, whereas maybe nobody else has had the time or or the perspective to listen to them, and it's that is so precious. You know, it's often the unmeasurables in life, not
Yeah.
the stats, but it's the unmeasurables that are so precious, and that's, I think, increasingly what we're moving towards.
This was a byproduct of creating PHA. It still fills my heart with joy when, you know, I hear the stories where people said I was at my last wits. I was alone in the world. I didn't have anyone to turn to. I was contemplating things I never thought I'd contemplate, very negative. And then I connected with the people at my local PHA. I managed to connect with them and find a space whereby it completely turned it around for me. These people saved me. They saved me from myself. They saved me from my thoughts, or they saved me from the attacks I was having. And I was able to then help create something new. So I felt better on a second level because I was then able to help other people. And that's how I think this is going to happen. I think this is what's going to roll out over the coming years. I'm not saying there won't be bumps in the road and it'll all be smooth sailing, but I certainly think that's where we're headed, is the fact that as we heal,
Yeah.
we can help others, and as they heal, they can help others, and so on and so forth. And that's how it has that, like you say, boomerang effect out there, and it all flips back round. And I don't think that, I can't remember what the term is, but I don't think there's any such thing as, you know, being selfless about it. You might intentionally be selfless, but ultimately we get a benefit as well. You don't mean it to, but we get a benefit as well. And that is just wonderful because the healing keeps happening on all sorts of levels.
Yeah, really beautiful. Because I keep, you know, I see everything through an astrological lens, Catherine. And as you're talking, Aquarius is very linked to networks. It's like a spider's web or mycelium, you know, mushrooms
Yes.
that sort of connect underground. And these connections are forming a global grid of light now. And that light is getting brighter all the time with every new hub that opens up, with every new initiative that you have, the more people that join it, the light is getting brighter and brighter. And we're feeding information. It's also an information network, isn't it? Because you're feeding information from one country to another, from one group to another, so they don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. I mean, it was interesting. Somebody in our group started to talk about mental health last week, and I said, well, you know, contact Katherine Macbean. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. No, she's already looking at this. So it's the information network is very much part of Aquarian energy too, and that becomes very efficient as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that there's less effort involved, and potentially it gives us the chance to be much more caring, use the time for care, and step away from the tech. So I think what you're doing is absolutely brilliant, but you're kind of doing it just about ahead of the curve, just about.
Just about.
Because this
There's
is
so much more to come as well. I mean, we've got the People's Alliance, which we've started talking about openly. We haven't quite launched it yet. That's, you know, maybe 6 months away. But we're working again with partners to look at how we can become more self-sufficient and support across the community in every area of importance. So we've got education next, but obviously there's local commerce. It might be that you want to sort of look at the political side of it and so on, the economic side of things, you know, how we connect to all levels to almost create our own infrastructure that works for us at community level. And, you know, part of the People's Alliance is going to be a massive directory of all the groups out there, not just health, all the groups out there who are within this network, and are looking to create the new, or create new systems or new ways forward. And then we can share that, and people can either think, yeah, that's a great idea, I'd love to adopt that, I'd like to work with you, and so on. So we are absolutely with you in terms of supporting that network and supporting that communication and that interaction between different groups. And for those out there who want to, we're very aware that there's a lot of people out there who want to volunteer or help or get involved with things, and maybe food or health isn't your area, but that's fine. The whole lot needs building into the new. So do find what works for you, and soon enough we'll have a huge directory to connect you up with all the other groups across the UK who are proactively aligning and getting on with building the new, and we'll be sharing that out. I'm hoping within 6 months we'll have that out there, but for everyone there's always going to be something you can connect with and resonate with and get involved, and you can start that now. You don't need to wait for us, you don't need to wait for anyone. If that's something you would like to do, go for it. Stick with the principles. You know, we're all together on this one, but go for it. There's nothing to stop you. Don't just wait for us. You know, we all have to get on and build the new. And I think those connections and networks are just going to grow and grow and grow.
Absolutely. And don't think I have no skills. I have no medical skills. I have no farming skills. I don't know how to grow food. If you're a human being, you can do something. You can give someone a hug. You know, if you're a human being, you can contribute in some way. And as you say, that feeling of contribution, and again, it's feeding into this Aquarian energy. I am creating something new. And what's happening at the moment, if we look at the whole thing in terms of energy and physics, it isn't, and you know this well, Catherine, that it isn't that we've got to wait for the old systems collapsing, which clearly they are, because if there's 7.5 million on an NHS waiting list, it's not working that well. We don't have to wait for that collapse to happen before we start building the new. They're parallel realities happening. They're parallel realities. And this is literally happening in physics terms. That's why everything's so turbulent, because this high frequency energy coming in is dissolving the low frequency, and you're getting into this churn of chaos. So, but the new is being created at the same time. And so, yes, it's going to be chaotic, but where do you want to put your focus? On what's collapsing or on what's being created? I know what my choice is. And the more,
and I think it would be sorry, Pam, sorry. I was gonna say, I think there's no actual strategic sense in waiting for the old before you build the new. You know, realistically, you want to be getting those safety nets in place before the old collapses, which is precisely what we want to do. And as people wake up and become aware, if you've got a void, if there wasn't a PHA or PFFA or any of the other groups who are doing great work, there's a void. And that's when panic sets in, because they've got nothing, no one's got anything to turn to, no one's got anyone to look towards, no one's got anything they can rely on. There's no infrastructure there that they can grab onto for safety, because that is what, you know, a lot of people are going to do. They're going to be scared, they're going to be overwhelmed, they're going to be grieving. But as the old dies out, they can suddenly go, don't worry, look, there's all these things. You know, which one resonates with you? There's all these things in place. You're not alone. There isn't all completely collapsed. There's some wonderful things happening. And what we're doing is by doing it now, by building the new, we're not only manifesting the reality of it, we're actually creating those safety nets. So as people wake up, they don't need to panic and they don't need to worry. And it will just make their journey that little bit smoother by having these safety nets there. So I go on and on and on about this, but I just want people to understand the importance of doing it to avoid, I don't like to use the horrible words, but like, you know, a bit of societal collapse or a little bit of, you know, difficulties taking place. We've got to have our community solid. And then what happens outside of that, we can't control that. We can't do anything with that. But if we've got these safety nets in our communities and we're working together and working alongside each other, we'll be okay. It's all going to work out just fine.
And what's really interesting as well with all of these groups, you know, PHA, you know, whatever groups you're talking about, increasingly, and I know I feel this, increasingly your day-to-day reality is those groups, those communities. That's how you spend your time. Those are your social interactions. That's what you're creating. That's your way forward. That's what you're planning and coming together. And, you know, you go on workshops together. That's your day-to-day reality. And yes, we may still have to have one foot in the old world to function. Maybe you've got a kind of still got a job in an office or a hospital or whatever it is, but increasingly more and more of us are saying, 60, 70, 80, 90% of my life is now over here. And that's really exciting, because you know, we're creating something that's never been created before, because we're ascending in physicality for the very first time ever as a humanity. And it's thrilling, the speed at which it's happening. But you are giving us the infrastructure, the ideas, the templates. And that's why I think for you, the PHA has happened just incredibly quickly, because the energies are with you every step of the way. I know it's exhausting, but it's also thrilling to see it happening this fast. And actually, if you tried to do it 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been the right time.
I did. I tried. Oh, it's about 7 years ago. I set up something called Community Compassion, which was very much about help your neighbour. You know, can you go and help your neighbour? It was very much about growing food. It was very much about removing homelessness, but starting in your community. And we got about 8-9 months out of it, but I was a single parent. My children were that much smaller, and I had a full-time job. So I was trying to manage all of this and move it forward, but the time wasn't right. we've got it right at PHA and we've got it right at PFFA, and it will be the same with education. Now is the time. There's never been a better time before to do this, and I think it's just been picked up and run with, because people are almost like, oh, thank goodness, there's something that resonates, there's something here that can build the new. And do you know what, then I don't have to focus on that stuff. I don't have to be looking at all the negative stuff. I can focus on the positive, and that vibration is just raised, getting raised and raised and raised and raised as we go down that journey. And before you know it, and I think, you know, this is hard for people to wrap their head around at the moment, and I understand that there's so much going on, but before you know it, you'll be the majority.
Yes.
And then that shift is massive.
That's what I say almost in every video. You know, if you keep on focusing on the old 3D, you're actually giving life support to what you don't want.
Yes.
So join this momentum over here, because we're going to get to New Earth so much faster. We're going to get to, you know, a much more loving, caring, peaceful, compassionate society faster, the more of us join this momentum. So, you know, I say it's so, people must get so bored. I say it so often, but it is true. It's true just in a very obvious, practical way, but it's also true energetically, because what I learned recently is when a group come together that share the same worldviews, share the same vision, their energies are not additive, but exponential, which means they're multiplied. So the group energy is magnified, amplified. It isn't just an additive effect, which is really interesting. And that's physics again. And I didn't realize.
Is that the whole basics, though, of collective consciousness, isn't it, I guess?
Yes, absolutely. So the more of us join this, you know, I see it like a kind of energetic tsunami, like a huge wave of love, joy, peace, compassion. Why wouldn't you want to be part of that? You know, and you are such a leader in this, in a very clear and particular way. You're such a leader to be part of a new parallel society that in every moment is becoming New Earth more and more strongly.
Yeah. And I encourage everyone to get involved. And there's a very practical reason as well. As you're becoming a lot, I've noticed personally in the last 6 months, we've had quite a big awakening. There's been quite a lot more people starting to come to the fore now. And what I'd encourage those people to do is actually get involved, because a lot of your friends or those involved in the network, if you like, are probably a little tired. Everyone's been working super, super hard for 3 years. So I like to consider it as passing the baton while they have a quick breather and jump back in. So if you feel like, well, I haven't been aware that long, I don't really know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can make a difference to somebody else. You can come in and you can pick up that baton for a while and support them around the rest of the race or whatever it may be. Because a lot of people have worked so hard, so hard. They've been relentless in getting on with building the new and the work that they've done over the last 3 years. That I would encourage anyone who's new to this, don't worry that you're new. You are absolutely going to be able to make a difference. So do reach out and get involved, and do find a space whereby you can support somebody else and help them with the job that they're doing, and be like a mentor and be guided through it. We're all there to help each other. So whereas I've spoken to a few people who are quite new and they feel a little bit reluctant to get involved because they're like, well, I don't know as much as you guys and I haven't been involved with this from the start. It doesn't matter. All of us wake up at different phases, and you've got white and you've got black and 50 million shades of grey in the middle. It doesn't matter. You know, we're all going to end up moving in the same direction. So, you know, there are those out there who are a little bit tired. There are those out there who could do with a little bit of support. Please do get involved. Just because you're new here doesn't mean you haven't got a role to play. Far from it. And your energy will be very much appreciated as well.
And yeah, absolutely. Because there's a great phrase that's, I'm not just here to make a living, I'm here to make a difference. And that's what you're talking about with your initiatives, Katherine. So, because if you're just here to make a living and you've got a large amount of money in your bank account, that's going to be your legacy. But how many people is it going to touch? What people really, I think, increasingly want is a legacy of love. How much do you hold in your heart at the end of your life, and how many lives have you touched? I went to a funeral recently. There's a local chap in living very close to me, and he was very much a community worker. He had touched hundreds of lives. You couldn't get enough people in the church. It was like sardines. I had to speak out, which was sort of looked up from the pulpit and thought, Struth! You know, they were down the aisles. I could see they were out of the front door of the church. I mean, you couldn't get another body in that church for that funeral. And I thought, wow, what a life that was, what a legacy, that in all kinds of different practical ways that chap had touched so many lives. And
Give me
yeah,
goosies.
yeah, and really that's what you are encouraging people to do. If they volunteer, if they join in, they are going to have that kind of legacy. How many lives have I touched? How many people have I helped?
Absolutely. How I have to sometimes think to myself, you know, if we all put our phone down or our screen down for an extra 30 minutes a day, and we use that 30 minutes, whether it was to reach out to a neighbour, whether it's to try and sit down for half an hour to come up with an idea of how you can connect with other people in your community, if we all could just save half an hour screen time a day and use it in another way, which, let's face it, it's going to be better for our health overall anyway, you know, sometimes that is enough, and you can grow from there and you can do it bit by bit. But I know that there's people in local communities I've lived in who have spent years with their eyes focused on the community. And you're absolutely right, Pam. They are so well loved. They touch so many lives. They're admired and respected, and people are grateful for their presence and their time and what they've done. And we can all do that. We can all do more. And I actively encourage people to do it. And this is going to be the way of the future. I'm convinced of it.
Yeah.
And let's just start making it happen now.
Yeah, and again, the boomerang effect, because we were kept isolated and 6 feet away, you know, don't connect. And so, yes, it's the boomerang, but if we get involved, then we can say we've had a life well lived.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for many of us, those things were historically very, very important, to work within your integrity, to have a good set of morals, to make sure you were giving back to your community. It was almost in the past an expectation. It was just a way that you lived, and that's what you did. And I think due to programming, due to social media, TV, radio, whatever it might be, what those people have been up to, like you said it earlier on, we've been distanced, and I think that happened long before COVID, if I'm honest. I think that was well and truly on the cards a while back. And so it's almost an act of defiance. It's an act of rebellion to put your phone down and to go and connect with your neighbours and go and connect with your community, and to do this. It's a very peaceful, wonderful, warm way of sticking it to the man a little bit and saying, no, I'm sorry, I'm not playing those games anymore. I'm not interested in your way. We're going to create our way, and we're going to do it together. So it's almost the most wonderful, peaceful way of being slightly rebellious as well, quite honestly.
Yes. Yeah, it's yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, I'm very lucky in a way, though it was extremely difficult during lockdown, but I live in up a little gravel track backing onto an organic farm, and there are 10 houses here, but everybody knows each other. Everybody keeps an eye. If somebody doesn't appear for a while, another neighbor will check on them. You know, nobody has an absolutely set pattern, but there's a little kind of community even within this road of 10 houses, and it just lifts your day. It just lifts your day. You know, hi, how are you? Lovely day. You know, are you okay? Can I do anything for you? Can I pick up your shopping? Whatever. Little things that actually enrich your life as well as help them. Tiny.
And another thing I think is single parents. You know, we have a lot of single parents in this country, and, you know, it takes a village to raise a child kind of mentality. We don't have that now. And a lot of people are far away from families for whatever reason. And I personally, one of the things I'd like to do in the future is make it my mission to be able to connect with a lot of single parents, a lot of single parent families, and ask them, how can your community help you out more? Do you struggle to get your garden tidied on time? Is it a case if one of the kids is ill, you're trying to juggle another child? Could you do with someone coming and giving you a hand? You know, for mums, I love something they do a lot in America, is mum comes out of hospital, maybe she's had a baby, maybe she's been poorly, and they've got a week of meals lined up, ready to deliver to mum, just to make sure that transition's easier. They can say, mum, would you like me to come in and help you do a bit of housework, whatever it might be. But we don't know about these things happening until we connect. Once we connect, you hear things, you're like, oh, so that lady, okay, she's in a bit of a tricky spot. Can a few of us get together and reach out and see if we can help? You know, I'm all about PHA and PFFA and all the rest of it, but the fundamental bottom line is I couldn't give a monkeys if your way looks slightly different. If you're out there in your community connecting and helping, it's got to be how you want to do it. And so for me, single parents is something I feel has gone a bit, you know, it's gone a bit far. lots of different discussions we can have surrounding that. But right now, the point is a lot of single parents need help. And is there some way that you can help somebody who's a single parent local to you? Can you just give them an hour a week and say, hey, do you want to go and do your food shop and I'll look after the kids for you whilst you go and do your food shop? Because I know when I was a single parent and I had a number of toddlers going on, it is not easy. It's not easy. So whatever it looks like for you, there's no right or wrong. If it's coming from a place of love, if it's coming from your heart, if it's coming from authenticity, there's no right or wrong how you do this. Taking that step and getting out there and connecting with others is the first one you need to take, and you will create what you need together.
And what beautiful. And what you're really doing here, Katherine, is bringing us back to what Indigenous people have never lost.
Yeah.
With Indigenous people in the tribe, if a new baby is born, everybody sings their song for them. You know, everybody comes together, and there's a feeling if you are born into that extended family, that's all of your family. And with your initiatives, you're actually helping us rediscover what we've lost in modern society, and I think that's a beautiful aspect of what you're doing.
It's so exciting, Pam, because it's happening. It's not just something that's going to happen in the future, it's happening now, and we're manifesting it through creation, and it's just going to get better and better.
Thank you, Katherine, for everything you're doing for us, because this is going to help people. It is helping people already globally, and it really is gaining substance and legs now, and you know, this is gathering momentum. All of your initiatives are gathering momentum, and this is what people want as well. That's, you said you tried to start something 7 years ago, it didn't work. It's working now because people realize what a big need there is. So thank you, and I know you're going to leave a lot of information under this video so people can help. Pledge a pound as well.
Yeah, Power of the Pound, that would be fantastic. We can't, unfortunately, run on fresh air. We'd love to. We're scraping by every month just with IT admin costs and so on and so forth. If every person gave £1 a month, we'd be set. You know, we don't want to be greedy about it, and we want everybody to be able to access it and take part and feel that they're in a position where they can contribute. So yeah, I will share links below to that, to the US teams that are just kicking ahead, and you're going to see a lot more coming on that, to the gala dinner, to the mental health information for the fab training. All the links we'll leave below, and whatever resonates with you, please do get involved.
Fabulous, Katherine. I always love talking to you. It's always so inspiring. So thank you. Anything else you'd like to share before we close?
I don't think so. I think I'd just like to say again, once more, to those that are newly aware, don't feel you can't get involved just because you might feel you're trying to catch up or you don't know as much as some other people. You will, and we'll help you on your journey. Don't feel, oh, I took a different stance, so people will be cross with me or any. No, we're not doing that game. We're not interested. You're welcome. You're loved. There's a space for you. Just come and get involved.
Fabulous. Love it. Thank you for all you're doing for all of us, Katherine, because this, as you say, is just rippling and ricocheting across the world. And fantastic. The unstoppable Katherine Macbean. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you.
Sending love to everyone. Bye for now.